Alright, number 23 is a question about equation of a line perpendicular to a given line. So what I want to remember is that perpendicular lines have the relationship that the product of their slopes is -1, or you might remember it as the perpendicular slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. So if I am given, this is the product that I'm actually given in the problem here, is that y equals -2x plus 3, so the slope of the original line is -2, so what I need is the opposite reciprocal. So the slope of the perpendicular will be the opposite, so positive, and then reciprocal 1/2. So 1/2, I look at the answer choices, and C is the only one that has a slope of 1/2. So that's a problem that you just don't want to get wrong, really. So we're going to skip a couple here because they're purely calculator questions. We're going to end up on number 27. So remember, anything I skip, there's another video for where I'm using my calculator, TI Nspire CAS. If you don't have one of those, you should definitely look into it. Well worth it. Even if you just borrow it from a friend, get really comfortable with it and use it on the SAT. So the next question is, we're told that sine is positive, and we're told that sine times cosine is negative. And we're trying to figure out what quadrant theta must come from. So hopefully you remember that in the first quadrant, all of the trig functions are positive. That's what A stands for. The second quadrant, only sine and therefore cosecant are positive. In the third, it's tangent and cotangent. And then in the fourth, it's cosine and secant that are positive. So where sine is positive, well, that's going to be the first or the second quadrant. And then if sine times cosine is negative, then sine and cosine must have opposite signs. So cosine must be negative because I know that sine is positive. So cosine is negative in the second and the third quadrants. So the only quadrant that I put 2 checks in is the second quadrant. So that's going to be our answer. Looking at the answer choices, that turns out to be option B. Alright, let's take a look at number 28. So in number 28, we're told that f of negative x is equal to f of x. And that automatically means that the function is an even function. So I know what kind of symmetry it's going to have based on that. So what I'm going to do is draw some stuff. So here's my point 3,8. So f of negative x, so if I plugged in 3, then I would have to plug in -3 to find f of negative x. And since I'm told that they have the same y coordinate, that must be at 8, so that ordered pair is -3, 8. And that's option C, so that's not really a bad question. The next question here is one of those if P then Q type questions, so this would be number 29. And we're told if x equals y, then x squared equals y squared. So whereas which of those cannot be inferred? So which of the answer choices cannot be inferred from this? So if you look at option A is actually just saying the exact same thing over again. Option B says a necessary condition for x to be equal to y is that x squared be equal to y squared. And honestly, when I first read that, I'm not really sure what it means, so I'm going to avoid it and see if I can just get this without dealing with it. So I'll move on to option C. So if x is equal to y implies that x squared is equal to y squared. Well, that's exactly the same as the given. And then D is x squared is not equal to y squared, then x is not equal to y. And that's one of those P implies Q. Well, that's, I guess, the contrapositive, not P implies not Q, and that's definitely true. And then option E says if x squared is equal to y squared, then x is equal to y. Well, that's one that I can actually refute by just coming up with an example. So if x is 3 and y is -3, then x squared still equals y squared, and that's actually going to be the answer. So that's how I would do that. I just avoided option B, which I wasn't entirely sure how to do. And I think avoiding it is probably the best choice at that point. Okay, so moving on to number 30. Number 30 says, in how many different orders can 9 students arrange themselves in a straight line? Well, this one, hopefully you just kind of know, is going to be 9 factorial, which is option D. And you should just use your calculator to calculate that. But I guess you might not totally know how to do this type of question. So I think of these as in a line questions, so line problems. So let's say that you have 3 people that are going to stand in a line. So I make 3 lines, and then I say any of the 3 people could stand in the first, then any of the 2 in the second, then any of the last person in the last. So that's 3 times 2 times 1, so 3 factorial. And then similarly, if say we only had, let's say we had 4 people, so it's going to go 4, 3, 2, 1, which is going to be 4 factorial. So these problems about people standing in a line always work out to just be a factorial. So anyway, I'm going to stop there, and I hope you found this helpful, and good luck.